Okay, let's take a quick look at what I think about UP. Like I said, this was a game that enticed and pleased me, kind of like, say, TV Wars or some others from that same era. And I still enjoy it. Now, I haven't played it very much. That may help. My wife and I are playing another game of it soon. We played a two-player game, and we want to give it another shot. Components, I like the map. Nice and sturdy. I'll tell you one thing about a map that, in general, I like, is with this one, with the little pieces, and these are a little cheap feeling, you know, but they're better than, say, I guess just little wooden rectangles or something. What's kind of neat about these is that they do give me some sort of sense of a continuity and a rail lines being built. I'd have to say Crayon Rails does the same kind of thing if you step back and take the time to think about it. But I don't feel like I ever have that time in Crayon Rails, but in this game I feel like I do have the time, even when I'm making those decisions, to kind of picture what's going on and what those rail lines represent. It's not a game that's rich on, you know, any kind of story or narrative or whatever for most people's purposes, but for me, just that visual of the growth of a map, of the growth of the rails on the map, that's actually a big deal. You know, in a way that kind of visual representation triggers things a lot more than a game that maybe tells a much richer story like Pax Porfiriana, which without the map means nothing to me at all. Other components, the cards are very good, at least in this edition. Nice shuffleable cards. This is, you know, from an era when I guess cards were just beginning or had just started coming out that were of good quality. I don't remember what year it is. It's in the 90s. You know, this is 1999, so this is actually fairly late. I was thinking more that this was from the not long after Magic the Gathering. So obviously, you know, the capability to put out nice cards on smaller runs had already happened at this point, and that's a good thing. I like the fact that they have a lot of flexibility to them. The money is not an optimal solution. I don't know what would be, but it's not terrible. It's just used for victory points in it. For the actual play of the game, well, how about the rules a little bit? They're high quality in terms of the paper and very nice printing job on them. But in terms of the way they're presented, I guess it was all fine. There's not a lot of rule to the game except for the setup. The setup is a little too verbose, and it takes a while to work through it. It would be kind of neat if there was just a setup card or something that told you the things you had to do in the order you have to do them a little quicker. Or maybe just a summary of it, because they use a few too many words and I end up maybe not setting up correctly. You can always fix things, but whatever. Alright, for the play of the game itself, what's so cool about it? The game goes through these multiple stages. Early on, you're just trying to, you know, get yourself in a position where you're going to score some points or money in the first scoring round. But you also kind of want to set yourself up in a position where what you're holding is kind of likely to help you later in the game. You're not really locked into anything. You have this opportunity to draw cards off the top of the deck to end up with this hand that nobody really knows that you're holding. And if you don't play towards that hand, if you hold it as kind of, you know, a sandbagging type operation, you're able to jump in and take over a company all with one sort of, one investment action. Well, another neat thing is the ability to kind of burn cards, stocks in particular companies, by turning them in for the Union Pacific. I really like this factor because everybody kind of has an expectation that there's going to be a certain number of stocks for any given company. Now, they may not all come out because the way the deck is kind of randomly determined initially, But the fact that you can affect that total number out there and that only you have the knowledge of the cards that you discarded to get UPs, that's kind of nice. It also means early in the game you don't draw any shares that are useless, because you can always turn them in for UPs, and as long as you don't come in 6th in the UP race, UPs are going to generate points for you in all the scoring rounds except the final one, or except the first one. I guess what kind of excites me a lot about this design is this push your luck aspect of it. I don't like push your luck games when that's all they are. So like Cosmic Wimp Out, I don't know, it's fun if you're drinking or whatever, I guess. But I like it in something like this, where you're faced with this agonizing choice. You know, I could improve my current situation and maybe improve my play for when I do an investment round, or I could bank what I have now because it's worth something to me at this point. And if I don't do it now and an investment card comes up, well, then I get screwed out of the bonus that I get for that. And the fact that the investment cards are kind of mostly random after you get through the first 24 cards. There's going to be one in the first 24 cards, but the other 3 investment cards are just scattered through the rest of the deck in completely random positioning, which means the game could all end really with the draw of, well, not the first 24, but with the draw of card 25, that could chain you through all the investment cards, actually, and it's just over right there. So you do have to kind of worry about that concept of, well, am I going to get screwed or not? Do I want to take my chance on this? I really do like that aspect of it, because there's a lot more to the game than just, do I want to roll the dice or not? It's not just that. That's a huge part of, you know, whether or not you're going to win is whether you get lucky with that. But another part of it is how you kind of manage what you're going to build, and the bluffing aspects of holding on to cards that, you know, other people don't know that you have, whether you're going to build their railways and maybe look like you're in second place for that railway and you're helping it. That's probably not going to fly. But what might fly is having a horde of those cards in your hand, having a first place with 1 card, and everybody thinks you've got kind of a weak first place, and they come in and maybe help it for a while, and then you've got the ability to come back in and make your plays there again. There's a number of different options here, a number of different psychological games you can play with the stocks that you're holding there. So that's a lot of fun for me. Even in 2, it can be kind of exciting, because there is that kind of bluffing element in it. Another thing is you can lay trains. I don't see this happen very often. On someone else's rail, one that you don't even control. Usually you don't want to do this because it improves that railway, but it can affect where other trains are able to go, or it can cut down on the number of pieces they have total, especially when you're dealing with the little companies like the blue and the gray. You might spend their last piece to prevent them from making a blocking play on you if you don't have the ability to play your own rail. Especially if it kind of helps you if you're in second place on that rail or something like that. There's some room for cooperation, maybe not so much between players, but between one player's different companies, where they can use one company to kind of shield another one or something like that. There's a lot of neat little stuff in it, but I think the main thing is that it's fast-paced, it's a simple game. It does have a little bit of counting in it. That is kind of a negative to me. I mean, early on it's pretty easy, but as you get late in the game and you're having to count every company and you're having to look over everybody's board position to see who's in first and who's in second in any given company, that gets a little tedious, but it only happens a couple times in the game. It only happens with the scoring rounds. There's only 4 of them. The first one you can pretty much say, that's trivial. It's going to come up when people have so few cards that the addition and the comparisons aren't going to be too hard. Not so sure how excited I am about that first card, face down play. That can kind of steer that can have a major effect on what that first scoring round is going to be like. And that first scoring round may well be the determining factor in the game, actually. Because it's quite, since you each have the same amount of actions throughout the game, and you each get a choice between improving a rail or improving your stock holdings. Generally, people's income on any given turn, on any given income card, dividend card, is pretty close. That's what we were seeing. I don't know what happened with the final scores. They looked way too far apart for what was happening. But maybe somebody who's just watching these straight through and paying more attention than I do when playing will be able to see kind of what happened there. My feeling is that I either cheated, which is possible, or that initial round was pretty good for the guy who walked away with the win. Anyway, this is a game I really enjoy. I gave it about an 8, which for me is a pretty damn solid rating, especially when you're getting in the Euro realm. The fact that it does give me a little bit of that, visual expansion across the continent, that helps a lot, even if none of the mechanisms in the game have much of anything to do with railway building. Sometimes I'm willing to give that up for the visual. I can be kind of a strange creature. Anyway, this one has a really fun place for me, even though I haven't played it all that often. I think it's got a lot of replay value in the sense that there's so much luck in it. There's definitely a reasonable amount of strategy in the game, but there's enough luck in it that it doesn't really matter what your strategy is. It can get interfered with pretty easily. Also, other players' actions can have a pretty hefty effect on you. Now, they can't do so without hurting themselves, unless it's kind of unintentional or they've got a nice hand in place. So, like, someone playing to tie you for first place or something isn't going to be able to do much to you. But that whole bluffing element means that they can be holding a hand that they can just slap down and take first place away from you. That can end up in this kind of struggle for control of an important company. That can work out pretty well because maybe both people will be playing towards that company or something. I don't know. There's a lot of interesting stuff in this. A lot that you didn't get to see probably in a solo playthrough. But even with just the solo, I had a good deal of fun with it. And I'm real glad I picked it up.